We spend so much of our lives, navigating the social world, trying to figure people out, ourselves included, right?
Definitely. And you wonder, what's really driving all that? Are there these hidden forces shaping how we act?
Exactly. And that's right where our listener pointed us with their suggestion. Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature.
Ah, yes. It's a fascinating book, sometimes a bit uncomfortable maybe, because it looks at these really fundamental, almost primitive drivers behind our actions.
Totally. It feels like, we have this amazing brain, this super complex thing, but we're often just running on the default settings.
Right, unaware of the deeper programs running in the background,
Mm-hmm.
both in us and in others. Green kind of suggests we're sleepwalking through life sometimes.
Yeah, not fully getting our own motivations, let alone anyone else's.
And the listener picking this book, it really shows they want to dig deeper, get past the surface stuff,
Mm-hmm. They're looking for those useful insights into why we do what we do.
which is exactly what we want to do in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We can't cover all 18 laws. Obviously, it's a huge book.
No way. So we picked a few key ones that really focus on social dynamics and, importantly, self-awareness.
Yeah, the goal is to pull out that practical stuff, those
Yeah.
aha moments you appreciate that can actually help you navigate things a bit better.
And this isn't just like a book report.
No, more like a guided tour through some of the really impactful ideas, tailored for someone like you who wants the core knowledge without getting totally bogged down.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. Law number 10, the law of envy.
Ah, envy, yes. Greene calls it maybe the most elusive emotion. It's sneaky.
Sneaky how? Like people hide it.
Exactly. It rarely comes out directly. He talks about passive versus active envy. Passive is that quick little pang we all feel sometimes, right? That comparison
Oh,
moment.
no, yeah. Like, wow, nice car. Or they got the promotion. That little internal twinge. Wanting what someone else has.
That's passive. But active envy,
Yeah.
that's when it gets darker.
How so?
That's when the feeling shifts into wanting to actually harm the person you envy or see them fail somehow. And it's tough to spot because who admits to feeling that?
Right, so how do you spot it? Greene must give some clues.
He does. Microexpressions are a big one, especially around the eyes. He says that very first impression, that first look, can be telling.
Yeah.
Watch for a fleeting look of disdain or hostility.
Just a quick flash.
Yeah, it might just be a flash. But if you see it happen more than once with someone, pay attention.
Okay. What else?
There's something he calls the Schopenhauer method. It's kind of a test,
A
actually.
test. How does that work?
Well, you share some good news with someone you suspect might be envious. Watch their immediate reaction, like milliseconds.
Okay.
You might see this tiny flicker of disappointment before they manage the smile and the congratulations, which might sound a bit forced.
Wow. Subtle.
On the flip side, share some minor bad news. You might catch a fleeting micro-expression of, well, satisfaction. Joy, almost.
Schadenfreude. That feeling people get when someone else messes up.
Exactly that. Taking a little bit of pleasure in your misfortune. It's unsettling, but it happens.
Definitely unsettling. Okay, what else? He mentions poisonous praise.
Yeah, that's praise with a hidden barb. It sounds nice on the surface, but there's sarcasm hidden in it, or an offhand comment designed to make you feel insecure.
So it's praise that actually aims to undermine you.
Precisely. It diminishes your achievement while they still look polite. Very passive-aggressive.
And then there's the classic backbiting, gossiping.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Greene says that's often just envy in disguise. Instead of saying something to your face, they vent to others, spread rumors. It's a huge red flag if you hear that's going on.
Definitely. What about this push and pull behavior, especially from people close to you?
Right. This is tricky because it comes from people who know you well. They know your weak spots.
Uh-huh.
Greene says enviers can use friendship or intimacy as camouflage. They might build you up one minute.
And then tear you down the next for no apparent reason.
Exactly. It makes you feel constantly off balance. That emotional roller coaster feeling.
Okay. I think we've all maybe experienced some version of that. So Greene doesn't just list signs, he actually types the enviers out.
He does. 5 common types. It's helpful to recognize the patterns. First is the leveler.
The leveler. What's their deal?
They're always focused on unfairness. That's not fair. Why do they get that? But really, it's often their own insecurity talking.
So they want to bring everyone else down.
Down to their level, basically. Yeah. They can't really appreciate excellence in others. They might even try to make you feel guilty for being ambitious. It's not about justice. It's about their inadequacy.
So watch out for the constant complainer who seems uncomfortable with your success. Got it. What about the self-entitled slacker?
Huh. Well, the name kind of says it. They think they deserve success, the good stuff, but without the actual work.
Right. They expect it to just happen.
Yeah, often quite narcissistic, but insecure underneath.
Mhm.
They rely on charm, maybe not effort,
Hmm.
and they might resent people who do work hard.
The person coasting along, expecting rewards. Okay, next, the status fiend. Sounds obvious.
Pretty much. Their self-worth is totally tied up in social rank.
Yeah.
Income, house, neighborhood, you name it.
They need to know where they stand compared to others.
Constantly. They might probe about your status. Sometimes they even pretend to be above it all, like very simple living.
But secretly, they crave the luxury.
Exactly. Greene says you might need to downplay things around them to avoid triggering that envy.
Okay. Then there's the attacher. What's that about? Leeching off success.
Sort of, yeah. They glom on to successful people, but it's not genuine admiration. It's envy.
So they try to be useful.
Super useful. They want to bask in the reflected glory without doing the hard yards themselves. And deep down, they often resent the person they're attached to for getting all the attention.
The perpetual assistant who never steps up themselves. Okay. And the last one, the insecure master. That sounds like envy from the top down.
It is. Sometimes getting into a position of power actually makes people more insecure.
Really? How?
They see talented people working for them not as assets, but as threats, potential rivals.
So they might undermine their own team.
Yeah, fire someone for a weird reason or try to discredit good work. It shows envy isn't just about looking up. It can happen at any level.
That's counterintuitive, but makes a strange kind of sense. Are there, like, situations that tend to breed more envy?
Greene points out a few. People who feel their profession is fading, maybe? Or older people feeling overlooked.
Feeling irrelevant.
Yeah, that can fuel it.
Wow.
He also talks specifically about successful women. They can face a lot of envy, projected inadequacy from both men and other women. It often turns into resentment.
That's tough. So he suggests maybe playing success down a bit, being humble.
That's a balancing act, he suggests. You don't want to hide your light, but sometimes a bit of humility can diffuse potential envy. It's tricky.
Very tricky. And social media, that must pour gasoline on the fire.
Oh, absolutely. Constant comparison. Everyone's curated highlight reel. It's like an envy amplifier, even for people who aren't naturally that envious.
Yeah, it makes it almost unavoidable sometimes. Okay, so we know the signs, the types. What do we do about it? If we feel someone's envious of us?
Well, managing your own emotions is key. Don't get sucked into their negativity. But Greene also offers ways to deal with envy if we feel it.
Okay, good. How do we move past it?
One big strategy is to actually get closer to what you envy. The person, the thing.
Closer. Wouldn't that make it worse?
You'd think so, but envy often thrives on distance and mystery. If you get closer, you start to see the work involved, the reality behind it. It demystifies it. You might even get inspired.
Ah, okay. See the effort, not just the shiny result. Makes sense. What else?
Redirect that comparison instinct. Instead of always looking up and feeling bad, compare yourself to, well, yourself. Focus on your own progress.
Your own journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And practice admiration. Like, consciously choose to admire someone's success instead of resenting it. He says admiration is the true opposite of envy.
I like that, shifting from I lack that to that's genuinely impressive.
And gratitude is huge, too.
How does that help?
Doing what he calls downward comparisons, not to feel superior, but to appreciate what you do have. Think about people with less. It grounds you.
Gives perspective.
For sure. And moving from Schadenfreude, that secret pleasure in others' failures, to what he calls Mitfreude.
Mitfreude, like joying with.
Exactly. Actively trying to feel happy for someone else's success.
It's a powerful antidote to envy.
That feels like a really healthy shift. Okay, powerful stuff on envy. Let's switch gears. Law 11, the law of grandiosity.
Right. This is about that basic human need to feel important and taken too far.
When our idea of how great we are gets inflated.
Massively inflated, out of touch with reality. We exaggerate successes, take all the credit, ignore luck or help from others. That gap between perception and reality is where the danger lies.
Yeah, because overconfidence leads to bad choices.
Yeah.
You stop learning.
Exactly. And Greene thinks grandiosity might be, well, on the rise today.
Why is that?
He points to a few things, maybe more pampered childhoods leading to entitlement, less respect for authority or expertise. But the biggest factor, probably social media.
Ah, the
Yeah.
likes, the followers, the curated image. Yeah. It can create this constant validation loop, inflating egos, give it this illusion of massive influence. Greene calls it a grandiosity virus. It spreads easily online.
We're all potential mini celebrities online, and that feedback loop can definitely warp reality. Greene talks about the grandiose leader. What illusions do they spin?
Oh, there are classic patterns. Often they craft this narrative about being destined for greatness, like their childhood was special, fate chose them.
The chosen one narrative.
Right. Or they might do the opposite, pretend to be the common man or common woman, focusing on shared tastes, downplaying their actual status to seem relatable.
Trying to connect with the masses.
Yeah. And in a crisis, they often step up as the savior. Big, vague, emotional promises. It can create a really intense, almost cult-like following.
We definitely see that pattern, promising easy fixes to complex problems. What else?
They often claim they can rewrite the rules, that they operate on pure intuition above conventional wisdom. It appeals to our own secret desire to break rules.
Tapping into that rebellious streak.
Definitely. They also exaggerate past successes. Everything I touch turns to gold, and blame everyone else for failures.
The Midas touch illusion. Never their fault.
Never. And finally, this illusion of being invulnerable, taking huge risks, driven by the need for fame and attention, often with really bad consequences down the line.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster. But Greene also talks about practical grandiosity. That sounds different, not delusion.
Right. It's about channeling that same innate drive, the desire to matter, to have impact, but productively, constructively.
How do we do that? How do we cultivate the practical kind?
First step is just honesty. Admit you have that desire. We all want to feel important on some level.
Okay.
It's human.
Acknowledge the drive. Okay.
Then focus that energy.
Mhm.
Don't scatter it everywhere. Break big goals down into smaller, concrete steps you can tackle in, say, months, not just distant years.
Grounding the big dream in reality makes sense. What else?
Stay connected to reality. Use your imagination, sure, but get feedback. Don't expect perfection right away. It's about balancing vision with what's actually possible.
Keep your feet on the ground while reaching for the stars.
Kind of, yeah. And challenge yourself. Push just beyond what you can already do easily. That keeps you engaged, stops you getting bored.
Just outside the comfort zone.
Exactly. And finally, don't completely squash that grandiose energy. It needs an outlet. Learn a new skill. Start that business idea. Tackle something ambitious. Channel it. Don't kill it.
So use the energy, direct it wisely instead of letting it become delusion. Got it. Okay, next law. Number 12, gender rigidity. Reconnecting to masculine and feminine within us.
Right. Greene's point here is that we all naturally have a mix of qualities we might label masculine or feminine. It comes from genetics, our parents.
Right. Society pushes us into boxes.
Yeah, we learn to repress the qualities that don't fit our expected gender role to fit in. But in doing that, we lose important parts of our character. We become less whole.
Like cutting off parts of ourselves. He brings in Carl Jung here, right? Anima and animus.
He does. Jung's idea is that males have an unconscious feminine side, the anima, and females have an unconscious masculine side, the animus. These are the aspects we tend to repress.
So the bits society told us weren't appropriate for our gender.
Pretty much. And not integrating these repressed parts can cause problems, especially, Greene argues, in relationships.
How so? Like it messes up romance.
It really can. We can get swept away by intense emotions we don't understand, or keep picking the wrong partners, repeating the same mistakes.
Because we're projecting something.
Exactly. Projecting our own unmet needs, our own repressed anima or animus, onto other people. This leads to major misreadings and ultimately often relationship breakdowns.
And we just keep doing it if we're not aware. He lists some common projection types. These sound like patterns we might recognize.
Yeah, 6 common ones. Let's touch on a few. First, the devilish romantic.
Okay, what's that pattern?
Often a woman drawn to an older, successful man. He gives her lots of attention, gifts. Maybe feeling a need for attention she missed from her father. But then she realizes he's not the ideal she imagined. The attention fades, and she might become constantly flirtatious, trying to recapture that initial validation, still seeking that fatherly ideal unconsciously.
Trying to replay an old dynamic. Okay. What about the elusive woman of perfection?
This is usually a man who puts a woman on a pedestal, often without really knowing her. He projects all his fantasies onto her.
Builds her up in his head.
Totally. And when she inevitably turns out to be a real person, not the fantasy, he gets disillusioned fast. Greene links this often to maybe not having a consistently supportive mother figure. He's seeking that ideal nurture.
Chasing a fantasy based on an old lack. Okay. The lovable rebel.
This is often a woman consistently drawn to men who are anti-authority, maybe bit dangerous outside her usual social circle.
Why? What's the draw?
It could stem from having a very strict or distant father. So she's unconsciously drawn to the rebellion, the independence she might have craved but couldn't express herself. Even if the relationships are unstable, the attraction pattern repeats.
Fascinating how deep these roots go. What about the fallen woman?
This is often a man, maybe raised very properly, maybe with a strong mother figure, who finds himself drawn to women seen as imperfect, maybe even bad or needing help.
He wants to rescue them.
Yeah, there's often a rescue fantasy. But he might end up being used or manipulated. Greene sees this as reflecting a passive aspect of his own repressed feminine side, the anima.
Trying to connect with something opposite to his upbringing. Okay, and briefly, the superior man and the woman to worship him.
Superior man is often a woman feeling inadequate, so she's drawn to really confident, powerful-seeming businessmen, professors, whatever, project strength onto them. But it can lead her to dominating partners. She needs her own self-worth.
Right, and woman to worship him.
That's a man looking for a woman to basically be a mother figure, warm, attentive, adoring. Often comes from having a very doting mother himself. He gets addicted to that kind of attention and needs to learn self-sufficiency.
Wow, these patterns are quite specific. Greene also talks about the original man-woman. What's that?
That's his term for the sense of self we had as kids. More fluid, more integrated, before society started forcing us into those rigid gender boxes.
Before we started trimming parts off to fit in.
Exactly. We suppressed bits of ourselves, masculine or feminine, to be socially acceptable.
So the main point here is become aware of these projections. Try to integrate those lost parts.
Precisely. It's about reclaiming those disowned aspects of yourself to become more whole, more authentic, and creating a gender expression that feels true to you, not just playing the expected role.
Okay, powerful idea. Let's move to Law 13, aimlessness, advancing with purpose. In today's world, feeling adrift seems common.
It really does. Greene contrasts animals, who have instincts to guide them, with humans, who rely more on judgment. But if we just follow impulses without a bigger why,
We end up drifting, hitting dead ends.
that's his argument. We need a sense of purpose to avoid aimlessness.
What are the real benefits of having that purpose? Is it just feeling good?
It's much more than that. It helps you understand yourself better, your values, what you really care about. It reduces insecurity, even depression risk. And crucially, it gives you sustained energy.
Energy. How?
It acts like a force multiplier. It channels all the different parts of your character in one direction, focuses your power.
Okay, so it's practical, it gives direction and fuel. How do we actually find or develop this purpose?
Greene gives 5 strategies. First, discover your calling. Look back at childhood, what came easily, what absorbed you.
Those natural inclinations.
Right. Also, listen to criticism, but use it as fuel, as data to adjust your path. Don't just get defensive. And hang around purposeful people. Their energy is contagious.
So look inward, learn from feedback, and get inspired by others. Okay, what's next?
Create a ladder of descending goals. Big long-term goals are good for direction, but they can feel overwhelming.
Too far away.
Yeah. So break them down. What needs to happen this year, this month, this week? Create smaller steps leading from now towards that future goal. It manages anxiety and builds momentum.
Makes the mountain climbable by focusing on the next few steps. Good one. Third strategy.
Dedicate uninterrupted time. Find ways to get into that state of flow where you're totally absorbed in the work itself. Focus on the process, not just the reward.
That deep work state. Right. What about things that look like purpose but aren't? He calls them false purposes.
Yeah, things that give a temporary feeling of direction but are ultimately empty. He lists 5 common ones.
Like what?
The constant pursuit of pleasure. Overstimulation instead of the focus that comes with real purpose.
Chasing the next high.
Right. Also, getting caught up in causes or cults, often with vague goals. They provide emotional release, maybe belonging, but lack substance. Be cautious there.
What else?
Making money or success the only goal. Greene argues those should be byproducts of pursuing something meaningful, not the purpose itself.
Okay, the goal isn't the money follows the goal.
Ideally. Also, chasing attention. Social media makes this easy now, but it's fleeting. Purposeful work attracts attention naturally, in a more lasting way.
Good point. And the last false purpose.
Cynicism. Making negativity and seeing flaws in everything your purpose, like the void as purpose, often fueled by politics, bad news. But it just leads to bitterness and inaction.
So these false paths might feel engaging for a bit, but they don't lead anywhere truly fulfilling.
Exactly. Real purpose comes from within and fuels you differently.
Makes sense. Okay, final law for this deep dive. Number 14, conformity. Resisting the group's downward pull. We all know we act differently in groups.
Definitely. Greene calls it our social personality. It's often unconscious. We start mirroring people, adopting their views, not always because we agree, but just to fit in.
That basic need to belong again, it's powerful. He talks about the individual effect in groups. What does that involve?
Several things. That desire to fit in, so we change how we look or what we say. The need to perform, to act like a loyal member.
Play the part.
Yeah. Then there's the emotional contagion. Group emotions are catching. Fear, anger, excitement. It can sweep you along.
You get caught up in the mood.
Exactly. And hypercertainty. Groups often pressure members towards quick decisions and total agreement. Doubts get silenced. Critical thinking goes out the window.
That sounds dangerous. Groupthink.
It can be. And Greene notes the bigger the group or the longer it's been around, the stronger that pull usually is.
More established norms, more pressure. He mentions specific group dynamics to watch out for.
Yeah, key things to understand, like the group culture, the shared spirit or ideal, the group rules and codes, often unspoken, but powerful.
The unwritten rules of how to behave.
Right. The group court, that informal power structure, usually an alpha leader, then others jockeying for position. It's almost primal.
Like a mini hierarchy.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Then there's the group enemy. Having a common foe really unites a group, and group factions, subgroups forming within larger groups, which can sometimes try to take over.
It really is like a mini society with its own politics. He focuses on the court and the courtiers. That sounds like office politics almost.
It applies anywhere there's a power structure, really. You have the leader, the alpha, and then the courtiers trying to gain influence. Understanding who's who is key.
So what kinds of courtiers does he identify?
He mentions the intriguer looks loyal, but secretly gathering power. The stirrer, driven by envy, trying to cause trouble between others. And the gatekeeper controls access to the leader, controls information, isolates them.
These sound like characters we might recognize from work or other groups. Okay, so how do we avoid the negative side of groups and create something healthy? A reality group, he calls it.
He gives 5 strategies for that. First, instill a clear collective purpose. Give people something positive to rally around. Channels that social energy constructively.
A shared mission. Okay.
Second, assemble the right team of lieutenants. Don't be afraid to delegate. Build a team with diverse skills that complement yours.
Get the right people in key spots.
Exactly. Third, let information and ideas flow freely. Encourage open discussion. Builds trust. Prevents hidden agendas.
Transparency. Makes sense.
Fourth, infect the group with productive emotions. As a leader, radiate confidence, determination, a can-do attitude. It's contagious in a good way.
Set the emotional tone.
And finally, forge a battle-tested group. Don't shy away from challenges. Test the team under pressure, tough tasks, tight deadlines. It reveals strengths and weaknesses and builds resilience.
Put the team through its paces to make it stronger.
Okay.
These all sound like solid principles for building a functional team or group. Wow. Okay, well, that was quite a journey through just those few laws from Greene's book. Definitely a lot to think about.
For sure. And understanding these dynamics, envy, grandiosity, projections, purpose, conformity, it really does give you a different lens to view yourself and others through. It hits that need our listener expressed for deeper, useful knowledge.
Absolutely. Being more aware of these forces, you can start to see them playing out in yourself, in others, and hopefully that leads to navigating interactions more consciously, getting those aha moments we talked about.
Yeah, making more deliberate choices rather than just reacting on autopilot.
So, here's a thought to leave you with. Knowing about these powerful, sometimes quite primitive forces that Greene outlines, how might really understanding them change how you approach your daily interactions, your goals?
And maybe reflect on which law really stood out to you today. Which one felt most relevant or surprising? Why? That self-reflection is key.
Definitely food for thought. And of course, we've only covered a fraction of what's in the laws of human nature.
Oh, yeah. If this sparked your interest, diving into the full book offers even more depth, more nuance. Highly recommended for a deeper understanding.